You're listening to Raiding the Fringe with Poda, Ostinius, Nehpets, and Dr. Lee. From ancient civilizations to the cutting edge of science, from exploring the outer reaches of space to the Atlantean depths, we discuss the topics of the unknown and the possibilities of the bizarre. Are you hungry to expand your horizons? Come get your fill as we raid the Fringe.
Well, hello and thank you for joining us in another episode of Raiding the Fringe, Quarantine Edition. So anyways, we have, like always, Dr. Lee.
Hello.
Poda.
What's up?
And Ostinius.
Hello.
I'm Nehpets, hosting here today, and today we're going to talk about assassins. Just different types of people that they found a better day job in going and killing people.
That's a better day job.
You never know, man. They just didn't like working in the field. They were better at convincing people they should be dead instead of alive. You know, just random crap like that.
Convincing them.
So, I mean, again, this has been around since the beginning of time. You know, everybody's always been trying to get rid of somebody, and there has always been a facilitation of that doing that. So who would like to start talking about it?
Okay, so we're gonna start talking assassins as far as like just straight up I murder you for money mercenary assassin. Well, they've gone like, because we've got the modern hitman, we've got mafia kind of things, we've got ninjas, we've got the whole the Assassin's Creed mythology going on with the whole idea that there's a complete underground assassins guild that goes back from the Middle East, who knows how long back. There's always been somebody willing to take some money to take someone out. That's true. That's very true. And that's how those guilds got formed, is like the best of the best got together to form a pact of, hey, let's split the cash somewhat, and made their own kind of team of top-notch assassins that didn't get caught. So I'm sure there's plenty of assassins that didn't do a very good job. Like, hey, Gary, $50 to go stab that guy. He probably was less successful than the $10,000 assassin. Man, that's the last time I go to Fiverr for my assassin needs.
You could probably hire a crackhead for $5 to go do something relatively sketchy. But
I don't know. I think the monetary amount is less amazing to a crackhead as the crack amount. Like, you could say, I'll give you $5, or you could say, well, I'll give you this size crack rock. And even though that crack rock only costs $5, I think they'd be more inclined for the crack rock. Yeah, well, unless they really know the value of crack, and they're like, well, $5, I can get a lot of crack. It can be exchanged for goods and services. Yeah, my abacus says you'll go Ricks. Yeah. Jeez.
I do find the idea of failed assassin attempts like the Pink Panther kind of comedy, because there's got to be those that fail. They didn't quite make it, or like they're learning, and that seems really comical to me.
Fujinji, the clumsy ninja. See, that's another thing. What's the training scale on the Assassin's Guild? Like, how good do you have to be? Like, if you can only take out a duke, then you're like a 3rd level assassin. You can take out a czar, you're a level 2 assassin. I can get to anybody, but I can only wound them. I haven't killed anyone yet.
So
yeah.
So what he was saying earlier about the whole, assassins being, the Assassin's Creed, I guess, starting in the Middle East, it actually was started in the 11th and 12th centuries. The hashishmen, meaning the hashish eaters, which he mainly just controlled most of his men using marijuana. But the original leader was Hussein bin Sabah, a prominent devotee of the Ismaili beliefs. But so, yeah, it actually started off in the Middle East and then, kind of went out and branched off into other cultures, of course. I mean, like an actual gathering of people or a company or a guild or a group of people doing this. They were the first in the 12th century.
I know back in the Edo period over in Japan with Nobunaga and Tokugawa, and they would send assassins to the opponent fiefs, and they weren't for hire; they were for honor. But
Yeah.
but they would sneak in and do some assassination skills. And that set of assassins in particular, I keep talking about ninjas when I talk about them because I really like the myths that come along with them, that they were superhuman because they didn't just kill people. They could turn into animals. They could hide in a shadow. They could walk across a whole floor of like broken walnut shells without making a sound, and that kind of stuff is. And so that's really neat to me is the idea that no matter how good you are, there's this super quiet, super deadly force that can always get to you anyway.
Yeah, I always thought that was cool too. I mean, that did happen in those old chic times, like, Nep is talking about as well. But like, it's like, ooh, whenever we try to search for them, they disappeared into the sand. The mystic element of them was prevalent.
I think the mystic element is just because they were so good at their jobs that they could kill without being noticed. You know what I mean? That was their job, was to make sure no one understood. I mean, that they were murdered, but not who murdered them. So, of course, they would be like, he came in like a jackal, or I thought I saw a cat leave, when I walked in and there was, you know what I mean? So, yeah, the animal changing could see that. You know what I mean? That's how I suspect that.
Well, a lot of those rumors were spread by them themselves, too, because that kind of mysticism adds an extra level of fear that you don't just get.
Oh, okay. So a skill you would have to have is like murdergician, or
Murdergician is perfect.
Magician. I like a magician. Like, yeah.
Murdergician.
Misdirection.
But a lot of it wasn't as, glorious or, as a knife in the night. Some of it, was very subtle, like poison and things of that nature, things that people wouldn't be able to tell the cause of death. It's just, I wanted them dead. I told you you would die within a fortnight, and then they'd be dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I spent up a year building a tolerance to iocane powder. Like that, I'm still stuck on the mishaps, putting the poison in the wrong glass, or it's like he used the wrong knife, and now it's going to be drawn back to this guy instead of that guy, because that's not the kind of knife that they used, or the timing of the year with political slayings and such.
Well, sometimes it came down to people blaming like handmaidens and like servants. It was your servant that served this man the food, and for some reason he died.
I mean, they would have to work in cahoots with possibly the taste testers back in the day, and it's like, oh yeah, the food is fine. It's actually poisoned.
Well, see, a lot of people would have to get clever to get past food tasters. Like if you want to poison the wine, or if you poison the ice. And that way, when the taste tester gets it, it's not poisoned yet. And then as the ice melts, it releases the poison into the goblet, and then the person drinking the rest of the drink dies.
Well, where were you in the 12th century, Lee?
I know. They didn't have ice in the 12th century unless you lived in, like, Scandinavia.
They had ice. They just didn't have refrigerators. They had it carted down from the mountains.
I guess you would have to say that the only people that actually, hired these people were, you would say, royalty or rich people.
Yeah, I mean, the upper crust.
So basically, it was a market just for rich people.
Well, if you had a worthy cause, there was always been known to be a group that would do it for a worthy cause for those who are less, financial. The classic hitman that you think of that does it for money. Probably.
Oh, the son of a bitch with a heart of gold. Like, why is he such a jerk? That jerk just donated half of his check to charity.
But
he's a bloodthirsty murderer, but damn it, he's got a heart of gold.
So I think of it as like a different class of hitman. Is the one that does it for the money, like the mercenary type hitman, and then you've got the ones who are the defender of the weak. We will kill this lord because he's been oppressing your people, and the group comes together and is like, we don't have any money, sir, but we'll give you stew if you kill our lord.
Well, then there's also like the combination of the two, which is like the hoity-toity guy who thinks he does it for honor or whatever, but ultimately he likes his martinis shaken, not stirred. If you know what I mean.
That was
He's still
something.
the upper class.
It's like, would spies and saboteurs be lumped in with that? Because they don't all kill, but just being able to sneak and information gathering or misdirection, sabotage, because, I mean, assassination is directly someone's going to die, right? It's not just
with
the
assassination, the murder is the goal. With espionage,
Unless it's an assassination attempt.
Espionage, it's a assassination of character and, defamation and stuff like that. Watching it crumble while no physical life was taken.
And they could overlap. You could need an assassin who is good at espionage or a spy who is willing to kill. So there can be a lot of overlap. I would say whichever one is your specialty. An artist can be a sculptor or a painter. you can consider yourself a spy or an assassin and still be able to dabble in both.
What's the thing, like with the Class A, Class B, like assassin? Class A assassin is the guy who's going in, sneaking into the night to kill the King of Prussia or whatever. But then, like, your Class B assassin guy is the guy who kills, the butler to take his place to be the espionage type dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He would have to look like a butler, though. The butler is like the boss of all the servants. So he would really have to look alike.
I mean,
no, you don't have to look like him. You kill him, but you make it look like something bad happened to him, and you can be the first one at the door with the resume to be the new butler.
Usually they have an under-butlerman that would take that job.
An understudy butler?
Yeah, kind of.
I'm under-butlerman to the queen.
He doesn't really have any power, per se, but he would be more of learning. He's going to come out and be a butler somewhere else, or take the place of the butler if he retires.
That poor bastard gets all the ladies. Who are you? I'm the king's butler. No, not the butler. Actually,
and I forget what the woman one is called, but she's called something different, and she's actually got a little bit more power than the butler because she has all the keys to the house.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry. That was just some random rich folk, bourgeoisie stuff, but you know what I mean?
Well, speaking of that, so would a Class F, those would be the assassins that no one really likes and sends them on the crap jobs because they do continually fail, so they just murder, the family pets and shit?
Now, you see, even if
they don't fail, they have to work their way up, right? You got to start somewhere, so...
That is an actual tactic that some people use where they hire bad hitmen on purpose, so that way you can be seen to be trying to kill someone without succeeding.
Mm-hmm. Where it's obviously thwarted. What a foolish attempt.
Yeah.
But it's because you wanted them to know.
You're sitting on your porch enjoying your afternoon tea and you hear a cough or a sneeze in the distance and then an arrow sticks to the table. What the hell was that? Do we think or assume that these groups still exist and are operating of their own accord and governments call upon them? That way there's no actual my hands are clean type thing.
The American government doesn't hire assassins. They just send their army to do it.
Well,
they've got their little SEAL Team 6 kind of situation. You know what I mean?
Right,
yeah, but they still are basically the military.
That's true, but who says being a military means you can't call yourself an assassin? They can be an assassin that works for the military. Or they're privately contracted, either way.
First off, you'd also have to think of what kind of person or mindset would they have to be to actually want to be an assassin. To go for just kill, just randomly, doesn't matter who they are, you don't know them. You know what I mean?
That's a nature versus nurture argument again. It's he had a very crappy upbringing. Or she, not just he.
Sometimes it doesn't even have to do that. It could be a very good upbringing, and somebody's just I've been obsessed with murder. And then, they turn 18, they get into the army, they do good on the ASVAB, they get offered a sniper position. Yeah, they're going to take it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was saying, the people back in the day, that the guys that they would hire for executioners, they had to actually, it almost sucked to be an executioner because you had to live outside of town. You weren't really allowed to come inside other than to execute people.
That's why they wore hoods, so that they were somewhat anonymous.
Yeah, right. Everybody knew who you were, though. I mean, like that. If you actually look up the history on these guys, they actually had to live outside of town. It was more of a family business kind of thing. Like your son was you're an executioner. You have a son. Most likely, he's going to be an executioner.
Everything was a family business back then, though.
I would hope they cornered the market, and they also did the funerals.
No, it was a really lonely and crap existence for him. You know what I mean? But they chose to do it because it was a necessary thing. So I mean, like, people like that, and then you got people who are like, they like the adventure. Hey, I'll just go kill somebody. But you're risking your own life too, as well.
Well, let's say, okay, so names came based off of your position or your family's, job back in the day. So, like, people who were Smith, like, could have been the blacksmith. Cooper was the guy who made the barrels. You know what I mean? Miller was the guy who milled the grain. What was the executioner's name? Hey, John Murderer, what's going on?
My name is Clavy Chopper.
Let him Bill Beheader.
Beheader. Hood.
Oh, hey, there you go. Actually, it gives Robin Hood a whole new light.
But again, like, that was just another aspect of a death job. You know what I mean? Because assassinations, you automatically think death, and it's a job to do that.
Probably soldiers of fortune, or any soldier. I think anyone who's seen battle and seen war, it changes you, and it makes you able to do that more often. And so I would say even before armies and stuff, even if we're talking about ancient times or whatever, this all would have had to have started from a soldier, someone who's seen battle, and has been marked by seeing enough death.
Well, in that case, you got to think about it. A lot of people who have that get like this odd form of PTSD, even if it's not manifested in a crazy, outlashing sense. They get the 1,000-yard stare, you know what I mean? So, like, there's a spy that's infiltrating, like, the monarchy. Wouldn't people be able to tell, like, oh yes, Lord Farthington? I don't know. He's clearly seen murder. Look at his face. Like, when he's like staring off. Pretty easy to spot the spy.
You look like you could be my next headsman. Would you?
You look like you're good at murdering people.
That's how they got their. That's how they get their job. You walk past someone, you're like, would you take some money to kill someone? Because you look like you would.
Yeah, there wouldn't be a career day. I mean,
now, would we only consider assassins people that are hired by rich people, or would you think, like, you go, like, even a serial killer themselves could be considered an assassin because they go after a certain type. They're not being paid, but they do it themselves. They go after multiple people.
Well, see, I grew up believing that if you're rich and or famous, then you're assassinated. Otherwise, you're just murdered. Whether it's for money or not. and so, growing up, I always said I wanted to be rich enough to be assassinated.
That's how you know you made it.
You know you've made it if you could have an assassination attempt on you. Until then, it's just murder.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. I think the act of assassination is if you got paid for it. Otherwise, it's murder. If you didn't get paid for it, then that's just murder.
Okay. All right, let me gray area.
I just look it up.
Oh, okay.
Assassination. Noun. The act of assassinating somebody. I'm like, ha.
It's a different. But
here's made me laugh.
Here's a gray area for you. So, what about like insurance fraud, or that kind of thing, where you've murdered someone to get the money that their insurance leaves behind, but you didn't get paid for it, but you're still doing it for the money.
Assassination. That's where I'm. Okay, go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
I don't know. I was just saying, assassination apparently is just mainly used for people of higher class, and then everything else is just murder. But I would consider everything like an assassination. Like the thing that the Charles Manson people did. They went out and freaking murdered. They assassinated people in their own community. But it has to be, apparently, you got to be political or have some kind of financial gain. That's why you don't call them assassins. You call them hitmen. You know what I mean? Because they're just hitmen. They're not killing. They're just killing people.
Still get paid, though. There is a monetary gain in a hitman.
Well, that thing that Lee said, that suggested, I would say, like, super aggressive self-employment or like entrepreneurship, like, because they took it of their own accord to go after that money with killing the spouse for the insurance money.
Well, and there is also the difference of, like, okay, so say the Manson things, that wasn't necessarily for a financial gain per se or political gain per se. It's more the belonging to a clan, an initiation of sorts, a rite of passage kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like there's that sense of, like Lee was saying too, with the ninjas, like a sense of loyalty or a sense of honor to your group, which I wouldn't consider that assassin. I would consider that more hitmanish, I suppose, if designated people were the only ones who did so.
I think a hitman's nothing more than a quick, cheap assassin. He's not. I would lump him more in with an assassin than I would a murderer. Because
did you ever play the game Hitman, Lee?
Yeah, I did.
He's not some cheap bumpkin.
No, he's not some cheap bumpkin. That's why I said he's more of an assassin than a murderer. But because he's doing it for someone else and not for himself. He's doing it for money, but he's not hitting the top of the charts. He's hitting the gang rival leader. He's lower level assassin, but he's not just murdering people to murder them.
Not doing regime work or anything, but still murdering for monetary gain.
If we were going to have like some sort of hierarchy, we'd have, the attempted murderers, and then the murderers, and then the serial killers, and then the hitmen, and then the assassins.
Okay. I could work with that. Yeah, I would agree. Yep.
So when people think of assassins or anything crazy like that, it seems like the majority of people usually think of like ninjas and stuff like that, other than the Assassin's Creed games, because that was a big thing. But usually when you hear assassins, you think of ninjas. What do you think the appeal is? Why are they so mainstream? I mean, they were just a small. I mean, like, because you got to think Japan, out of the totality of the whole Earth, is very small. So why did such a small country have these people of fame that have just ran across the world?
Well, I think it's really the myths that attached to it that made it what it was. It's, they had a really good marketing team. You could be, if you're really, really good at your job and killing, no one knows what you are or who you came from. All they know is that these people died. And the people that get caught are bad at it, and so you laugh at them, and then they're also not a big deal and no one wants it. But when you have these myths and stories spread about this society that could bring superhuman abilities out of a person, and they're the ones going and doing this, that story becomes larger than any reality could have been, and I think that's what would have spread it all over the world.
No.
Yeah, but every country had different, things that spread across the, you know what I mean? Like, but not as much as ninjas. Have they had, what do you consider the resurgence of it? Because everybody has a resurgence of different aspects. Like, everybody knows what a knight is, but then everybody will start, talking about knights and stuff like that. Or everybody knows what a samurai is, or everybody, because of the lore. But what do you think of the resurgence and how ninjas have actually stayed strong through these ages, and in all honesty, as assassins? Because, like I said, it's almost synonymous. You think of assassins, you'll think of ninjas.
I think a huge part of it is really that mysticism element, and the fact that, I don't know, like Lee said, they were really good at what they did. Not saying that other people weren't as good, but after the striking image and mysticism of a ninja in the night, you see a sheik, in the Middle East wearing all black in the middle of the night. After that imposing image of a ninja, that is what's more stuck in your mind. You know what I mean?
There was also, in the late 19th century, early 20th century, there was a resurgence in the Western Hemisphere over Asian culture. Not just the ninjas, but like all over anything Asian and the Orient, and how, crazy weird all of their customs are. And that itself became a romanticized mystic thing. They're from over there where they stick pins in your feet to cure a cough, and it gets crazy like that. But the badass, the most crazy of their myths is the ninja, and that probably helped bring it back, especially into our Western culture, is just because there was a fascination with the Eastern culture for a while.
I agree with that, but there's a point of brand recognition, so to speak. So it's like Kleenex or Q-tips. You know what I mean? Like, you don't say tissue or cotton swab. Like, you're going to say the thing that predominantly is in your mind. And for most people, when it comes to like assassins and stuff like that, ninja.
That's not just assassin. That's just sneaky. Anyone who's being sneaky, he ninja'd up on that guy.
He's being quiet. He's a ninja.
Well, I would think it's so prevalent because given the two examples that you stated, Lee, of being caught or not caught and the abilities inherent in that, there would be deaths like, okay, we know ninjas killed this person. We have no way to prove it, but we know it was them. The ninjas have the reputation of doing the job with the mysticism, everybody knowing it was them, but not being caught. And that's very powerful because they're not hidden. They're fully known, but we can't stop them because they're that good. At what they do.
Same with hitmen. I think because Ninja's been around longer, it still feels like Ninja is bigger. But there's a huge mythology around the hitmen, like from the Mafia, that it's a lot of it's based on fact, but a lot of it is just conjecture, and we've made stories and everything because they were all over the place, and they were practically untouchable too. The way the Mafia kept their people close and protected and had the cops paid off and everything. So you knew that if, some Don wanted your head, you were in deep doo-doo because there's nothing you could do about it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that I would say that like the Mafia hitman is kind of the Western ninja.
Well, and it could also be one of those things of you just like, it's been so built up, whether or not that person is responsible. Like Pota's saying, even though there's no way to prove it was a ninja because their tale had been built up so well. I mean, I could put some bread in a convection oven and get it to a golden brown and hand it to somebody and be like, oh yeah, thanks, I was cooked in a toaster. But it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, it's the result, but without physically seeing it or knowing it. But it's just given this idea of what happened.
Right. So the next guy that was killed expertly, you will say it's a ninja, even though it might have not been a ninja at all.
So there's one guy. There's that guy at home going, it was not a ninja. It was me. Damn it. It was Daryl White.
Yeah, you're taking my credit. How dare you?
Damn ninjas. I'm going to kill them to quit taking credit for... Oh, wait. I better not. They're ninjas.
They're ninjas. Oh, man.
So do you think that there could be like a society living somewhere where that's all they do is just they go out and they're for hire?
Oh, yeah.
I think there was at one point in time. I really don't think that that's a thing that is anymore.
I bet you there are. I bet you that it's going on heavy in the Middle East, where it's certain areas where any person could get kidnapped off the street anytime during the day for ransom, and it happens all the time because there are so many militant groups out there ready to band together and do shit.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But they're like those Class F assassin type guys. Man, we're not good enough to kill anybody yet, but we'll kidnap him. Yeah, let's do it. All right.
I don't know about killing. I got some guns, and I like sneaking around in the yard a little.
I like shooting around and acting like I'm going to kill somebody. All right. So I hear your group is called the Ransomers. The Ransomeers.
We're also a band.
Yeah, you better watch it, or else we'll kidnap you and play a song about it.
I would still think there are definitely assassination guilds or groups out in the world, and it probably wouldn't even be just in the areas like those areas of conflict that you discussed, but I would think they could thrive in a highly populated, socialized cultural area like America or the UK as well, because of just the ins and outs that they would know and how to be able to go unnoticed, because there's only certain classes of people that people pay attention to.
Yeah.
And the art of camouflage and or the murdergition and misdirection and distraction is a big viable tool.
Well, and it's very easy if you think about it in a lot of places like that. We complain about our population, but there are countries that are smaller than states over there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got all these people in this crammed space, and nobody walks around with a sign on their neck saying, "I'm a murderer." You know what I mean? So it's a lot easier for it to slip through the crack.
There's over 1 billion people in India, and India is smaller than the U.S. That place, you could probably have 100,000 assassins hiding, and that's still only 0.1% of the population.
Yeah, and they're all washing in the Ganges.
Didn't the ninjas originally start as farmers that decided to uprise and fight the lords of the land, or the shogun?
That's where some of the ninja weapons came from, but I wouldn't say that those were initially ninjas.
Yeah, and actually, it was the mostly Chinese farmers when Japan went to take over China, and they weren't allowed weapons, and so they weren't allowed to uprise, and because they were denied that, they devised a lot of the tools or the weapons that we know from ninja lore came from their rakes and their scythes and their farmer equipment, and that is the whole reason they even invented martial arts, was because it didn't look like fighting until it was time for the uprise.
Well, and then ninja continued to use those weapons because they were cost effective, and ninjas would steal babies from people, and I mean they weren't a well-funded group.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, you couldn't put a tack up on the town bulletin board at City Hall and be like, recruiting this week, be at this place. Yeah.
Well, what's funny is the modern board, Craigslist, you can find people, and there's been stories recently about murderers and hitmen who have literally gone on Craigslist to hire out their hitmaning skills. Those are your Class F.
Those are what you call police officers? I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be somebody being like, just what I needed. I knew Craigslist was going to be it. But, so what other, so every country has had, political parties that they wanted to deal with. What are other types of assassins that we can think of? Like, can we think of a Brazilian one? What would they be called there? I didn't Google that answer, so I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think Canada had any hitmen.
I don't know, man. Canada's actually had some pretty crazy people up there. They
were called Algonquin Moosemen.
Their jail system is about as crazy as Europe's jail system. So, I mean, it's like I murdered 6 people. We'll let him out every weekend so he can see his family. You know what I mean? That doesn't exactly happen, but it's kind of like that.
Well, with Brazil and a lot of the South American situations, any of those high-class killers we usually think of tied to drug lords. So I would have to say, in Brazil and Colombia and areas, I would have to say probably some Mexican word that we don't know, some Spanish word.
Okay, so would you say that South America is ran by drug lords only?
I would probably say, that's I'm relying on stereotypes, I guess, but yeah, I'd have to say most of any hitman down there would have to have been funded and or created by a cartel.
Yeah, okay. What about Australia? They originally started off as a penal colony. They would have to be some kind of crazy killers there.
Nah, we don't assassinate, we just kill you.
We'll throw you in a scorpion.
Yeah, you want some death? I'll give you some death.
I'll feed you to a rabid beach of dingoes.
A dingo ate his baby, it's fine.
That was a future ninja assassin. Now we got assassin.
Future
hashishin assassin.
Yeah, hashishin.
Oh, they used to be hashishans.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, he used to run them by giving them anything they want. If they wanted sex, he would give them women. If they wanted, they gave them as much marijuana as they could smoke. That's why they were loyal to him. He didn't have to pay him. He literally just had to let him have plants and then let him have his prostitutes. Like so.
Oh, that was cheap.
Yeah, well, yeah, it probably was. He could go out and buy these, slaves, these women to do whatever to these guys, and all he had to do is grow crops. If it was like, you mean to tell me that I can control a whole army by just giving them corn? You know what I mean? Like, it's the same. It's growing a crop.
Yeah.
You're like,
it would definitely be cheaper than raw money.
Yeah, so, of course, you know what I mean?
Well, you got me trying to look up South American assassins.
Well, I don't know. I just thought, is there any Madagascarian assassins?
Maybe not Madagascar itself, but South Africa probably has.
Oh, yeah, South Africa has.
Assassins that have been throughout that have been politically motivated, but none of them, it wasn't like the sept of the Agluglian. You know what I mean?
The McCalls,
Yeah.
But
Operation Condor. But that was our operation to rout out assassins.
Call them like the purple leopards. But yeah, you go to Africa, they'll kill you there. I mean, like those warring warlords, they're basically like Japan back in the feudal age. You know what I mean? At this point in time, you basically got these warlord dudes that are running certain areas
all over the Philippines and stuff like that too. I mean, they have random sects all over.
So I just looked up African assassins, and they are a bug.
Mm-hmm. The African assassin?
Yeah. What do you call an African assassin? A scorpion.
I told you. Throw them in a den of scorpions.
Nah, there's this predatory beetle called the assassin bug. Only lives in Africa.
Sounds
good to know.
Unrelated, but kind of cool.
No thanks.
So do you think some crazy rich billionaire thinking up on the upper crust of society who has given into conspiracy theories and cryptozoology has hired assassins to go out and kill Bigfoot and bring him back a body to prove he exists? Or reptilians?
I would say no, because if you were a billionaire that wanted to find that out, you'd go out yourself.
I would say no, because if you're an assassin willing to take a lot of money for killing, then you're not going to go after Bigfoot. I think the only people going after Bigfoot are your Class F Craigslist hitman or your...
Or Fiverr. Is that a real website? Can I visit that website?
2 points to that. Not every billionaire is like a Teddy Roosevelt. They don't want to go out and do shit themselves. That assassin could have a lifetime contract. It's like, did you get him? Nah, but I'm really close. Just keep paying me. I'm going to get him. I'm on his trail. He's just a lousy bastard.
I see that type of assassin as going, no, I didn't find him. I won't find him. I will look, sir, if you insist.
Your check clears.
I'm not...
He'll be out in the woods.
I'm not predicting I'm going to find him. I found this guy with big feet.
Yeah. His name was Harry. Yeah. Smelled bad. That would be a definite contract negotiation. It's like, do you understand? I may never find this creature, but I don't want you to give up. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is current cryptozoologists. Just give me this money and I'll go out and I'll find this creature. Oh, I'm getting real close. Just give me a little bit more grant money. Oh, I'm getting real close.
I got this hair. It's bear. It's bear hair. It took us 3 weeks to find that out, but I was really excited. I almost. Thanks for paying for all those lab results, by the way. I really support your...
Yeah, thanks for Bigfoot in the bill, if you catch my drift.
Bigfoot in the bill. Bigfoot in the bill means you don't show up when it's time to pay.
I saw a fuzzy picture of him. Where is he?
You got some hopes? Let me Sasquatch them right now.
Yeah. Well, I guess with all the mysticism and all the sneaking around, would you consider Bigfoot an assassin?
You know, the ones in like China and Russia, the ones that are said to actually like hunt and eat people, Maybe.
How do you know that Bigfoots in America don't do that? That there's tons of missing people.
Well, for one, there's no proof that they're going out for people, and two, what are they taking for pay?
The squirrels pay them in acorns.
Got
15 cents of acorns. All right.
A predatory lion is not an assassin. It's just a predator.
I don't know. I'd call him an assassin. He gets paid in meat.
Yeah, but nobody paid him. He made his own payment. That's a murderer.
But that's also an insurance fraud murderer.
Ooh, or you guys said that they could do it for goodwill. It's goodwill that they bring the food back to their pack.
Well, if they're protecting their tribe, that's that loyalty, honor kind of the code of society kind of deal.
So I would say Sasquatch is a loyalty, honor assassin.
I would say that, but that goes under protectorate. I wouldn't say outright assassin or murderer.
Assassination cannot be in defense. I would have to say that flat out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not assassin if a dude breaks into my house and is threatening my family, so I kill him.
Even if he was rich.
But what happens if you were told?
And I robbed him. Hey, what's this guy got? Holy shit, $3,000. I'm glad you came to rob my house, buddy.
Yeah. What would a Canadian assassins be like? It's like, I'm going to come over there, okay?
Well, I got this device inside this puck, and when I hit it past the end goal at the end of the third quarter...
Now, don't be a hoser.
I hope you don't mind, but this piano wire is kind of going to go around your neck, okay?
Oh, gee, this bullet wants to meet you, don't you know?
It's got your name right on it there.
It's like, I appreciate it. You over there, yeah?
Not to be a burr in the old foot, but yeah, somebody's got to go, and it's not going to be me, eh?
Well, I'd like to thank you for listening to our newest rendition of Raiding the Fringe Pandemic Edition. We'd like to, as well, thank you for joining us and hope that you come back next week. You probably will because, hey, there's nothing else to do. So, signing off, we got Lee.
Good night.
Oda.
Stay healthy, stay safe.
And Osinius.
Adios.
Don't leave your house. Goodbye.